Meanwhile, with the Japanese advancing throughout the whole Western Pacific, in early 1942, the commanding officer of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, Admiral Chester Nimitz, faced a formidable task. The Philippines were gone, and Hong Kong and Singapore were going, as Japan capitalized on the paralyzing blow at Pearl Harbour. With much of his fleet either sunk or in dry dock, Admiral Nimitz first had to establish a supply line to Australia through waters dangerously close to enemy bases. The first few convoys of troops and supplies sailed to the southwest by roundabout routes to evade Japanese forces. They got through, but too much time was lost. For every day, the enemy was smashing his way closer to Australia. Serious threat to American convoy lanes were the Gilbert and Marshall Islands, bristling with Japanese airfields and naval bases. With what forces were available, these bases had to be neutralized. A carrier striking force was sent out to do the job. This was the first action in which a naval force built up around the carrier had ever entered. In a maneuver that completely baffled the enemy, the task force struck, and struck hard. The Japanese were caught flat-footed. Their installations were rendered useless, and the route to Australia was safe for many months to come. During these months, men and supplies poured in ever-mounting numbers into Australia and New Zealand. New Caledonia and a score of outlying island bases were thus secured from Japanese seizure. By the spring of 1942, the Pacific Fleet, both on the surface and in the air, was beginning to regain its strength, and none too soon.